All right, that's a little more like it. Seahawks win 29-13, and if you came here expecting me to get all excited and jump around and get all pumped up and throw a party or whatever, it's not going to happen. Game pretty much went as expected, maybe a few more points than you might have thought, but on the whole, the progression of the game was pretty much what you would expect from a Seattle versus San Francisco tilt at this point in time. So all I can say is that it was nice to see the team go out there and execute on offense. It was the best the team's looked since, at the very least, since the last time we played the 49ers. That might have been the best game we played all season. And the fact that I can say that and I'm still kind of sort of left wanting tells you that the team is still not where it needs to be. But we bought ourselves a little bit of time by getting this win, getting back to 500, and at least giving ourselves a chance over the last 6 games. So this game, not a lot to say about it. There were a couple moments of drama at the start of the third quarter, but we took control from the very beginning. We forced the 3-and-out, drove down for a touchdown, 3-and-out, drove down for a touchdown, 3-and-out, drove down for a touchdown, and I won't say it was game over, but that is how you start a game. We had 3 touchdowns on our first 3 drives. I don't know how long it's been since a Seattle Seahawks team has accomplished that, but that was something else. And I got to give a huge shout out to the entire offense for their performance. You could go down the list, and everybody did their job. Lynch was a late scratch, did not get the go-ahead, could not go today. No problem. Thomas Rawls had the game of his life. He'll probably never have a game that good again. Few running backs ever have a game that good. 209 yards rushing, 46 yards receiving, 2 rushing touchdown, receiving touchdown. He did it all. And it's time for us to really get on board with this guy because he has it. It's not just a flash in the pan thing. This is sustainable. The way he runs, the things that he does with the ball in his hands, the people he makes miss, the people he runs through, it all looks real. And if next year Marshawn Lynch moves on with his life, decides to go somewhere else, or decides to retire, or we decide to let him go, Thomas Rawls has earned the right to at least try and carry the load on the running front next year. And I'm excited to see it because you can tell he's a guy who didn't play that much in college, and he's got a lot of tread on the tire, and it's exciting to watch him play and run with all that energy. And when Lynch gets back, Rawls needs to continue to get more carries. And at the end of the day, he was obviously the engine that made this whole thing go. Other than that, the passing game was nearly flawless. Wilson had one of the best games of his career. 3 touchdowns. He only threw like 5 or 6 incomplete passes the whole game. Made a couple of big plays down the field. He missed a couple too, but no point in really complaining about that. Only took a couple sacks, got away from a few sacks, avoided a few, so he did everything you could want from your quarterback. I can't really think of any plays that he blew other than maybe he missed Jimmy Graham down the sideline for a touchdown on one play, and he overthrew Lockett a little bit on what would have been a game-sealing touchdown, but at the end of the day, there's nothing to complain about. Doug Baldwin, that wide receiver bubble screen is actually starting to work. I hate that play like you would not believe. It is my least favorite play that we use because it looks like we don't know how to run it. That play is starting to work. Baldwin used it today. Lockett used it today, and they both made positive plays. So if we can get that working on our offense, I think we could become a more dangerous team because that really takes the meat out of the pass rush. Lockett, 2 touchdowns, one of his best games receiving. He had the one over the top and the one where he made 2 guys, he broke 2 tackles to get in the end zone. Just a monstrous game from Tyler. And you got to get him the ball a couple times a game. And today, there was obviously very little going on for him on the special teams front. So we needed to get him some stuff on the offense. And sorry if you can hear my dog. She's well, whatever. She's a dog. Who knows why she's just picking this very moment to go nuts, right? But Jimmy Graham, only 3 catches, but all 3 of those catches converted third downs. So they may have not been monster numbers, but they were very important receptions. And if he doesn't make those catches, some of those touchdown drives, they don't get extended. So I think he played great. Jermaine Kearse, he had the one drop on the ball that was probably not thrown that well, but you know, the Jermaine Kearse thing's interesting because there's some talk that he's not going to see very much action over the last 6 months of this, over the last 6 weeks of the season, simply because we don't think he's going to be here next year, and we want to see what we have in a guy like a Kevin Smith or maybe even a Kason Williams if he gets called up. But in the meantime, Kearse, um, he's obviously got some real talent deficiencies, but he knows the offense better than Kevin Smith and Kason Williams, so we're going to need to see something from that guy. It's just up and down with that guy, and you don't know what you're going to get. Some days he can't get open, some days he makes big plays. So yeah, offensive line pretty good, not perfect. A lot of penalties. The penalties were killer, but today we actually overcame the penalties. Thomas Rawls in this game obviously had several long carries, and they didn't get called back like we've been seeing the last few weeks with some of the good plays that we've had. So the line, they've improved. They're still not where they need to be yet. And we had some injuries at the end of the day today. Patrick Lewis, J.R. Sweezy, and Justin Britt. I think Sweezy's fine. The other two we'll see, but not what you like to see going into this very important game against Pittsburgh. But for today, just talking about today, it was great. Defense, nah, good enough. The start of the game, the first quarter and a half was amazing. I think we gave up like 1, maybe 2 first downs the whole first half up until their final drive. Gabbert was just checking down every play. They couldn't run the ball. It was a very, quiet game for their offense to start. And this goddamn tight end thing, it's going to kill us more than it already has later this season. We cannot cover tight ends down the seam. I think it's a Cam Chancellor problem, and I think it's a Kerry Williams problem. And Kerry Williams played so bad today, he got benched. He was getting beat by Vance McDonald. He was getting beat by Garrett Selleck. He got beat by, I think it was Anquan Bolden a couple times, and eventually we just pulled the plug. Kerry Williams spent time on the bench the rest of the game. Deshaun Sneed went in and didn't play that much better, but I don't think he's as big a liability, so I'll take it. But yeah, the Kerry Williams experiment might be done. I've been back and forth on the Kerry Williams thing so far this season, but today convinced me that it's time to try something else with that guy because he doesn't have it. I thought he would pick up the system as time went by, but he clearly doesn't have it. And he was responsible for a lot of the big plays that San Francisco had at the end of the first half and the start of the second half when they actually managed to put up a couple of field goals and the touchdown drive. The touchdown drive in particular was really terrible. That was some of the worst defense I've seen this team play this year, and that's actually kind of saying something. But other than that, it was mostly checkdowns for most of the game. They didn't score until it was already 20-0. And then at the end of the game, both sides of the ball put this game away. Defense came up with a couple plays to make sure that San Francisco couldn't get anything going. And the offense picked up first downs at the end of the game to clinch it. So we played really good when it mattered. And given what we've seen the last few weeks and given what we've seen earlier this season, that's about all you can ask for. So yeah, it's a good win. It's not a phenomenal win. It doesn't prove anything other than that the season is still alive and the team still has some belief that they can make something out of this season. But it gets a lot tougher from here on out. So you got to get better because even today we were playing the 49ers offensive line, which is one of the worst in football. Pass rush was very tepid. We didn't call very many blitzes, and when we did, the blitz seemed to get beat pretty badly. We sent like Earl on a couple of blitzes. We sent a couple double A gap blitzes. They got beat. So there was some problems there. The only guy on the defense who I can say a ton about is Cliff Averill, because Cliff Averill had a monster game, 2 sacks, 1 early, 1 late. Uh, Other than that, there are some other good contributors. Obviously, the linebackers, they play well. Frank Clark made a play where he got to the quarterback, not a sack, but a pressure affects the play. Bennett always does good things here and there, but to say I came away impressed by the defense in this game, I wouldn't go that far. Obviously, Blaine Gabbert, from what we've seen, is more of an NFL quarterback than Colin Kaepernick, so you can't make the one-to-one comparison, but when you compare what we did today to what we did to the 49ers a few weeks ago, it's not much of a comparison. So all I can say is that we won. We looked fine. Pass rush needs to be better next week. The um, the safety play needs to be better next week. I'm not talking about Earl, but Cam had another up and down game, and I thought the bad was more than the good. So gotta get ready for next week. So I'm gonna get out of here. I got a late game to watch, and I got this, and I'm gonna watch the Warriors tonight. Uh, Hope they do it. I got a friend who's a Warriors fan, so I'll tune in and I'll talk about the Pittsburgh game when it's time to talk about that game. But good one today.